I'm meteorologist Carley Gomez, and it's definitely been feeling like spring. The temperatures in the 70s Friday, and we were in the upper 70s for a lot of places as well. We've been looking outside and seeing the beautiful sights of spring as this mustard field photo was sent to us by Melinda. Thank you so much. Look how gorgeous it's been. But we're also seeing those strong winds that push through for those last few days. Wind advisory and the high wind warning has now come to an end. And as we move into St. Patrick's Day weekend, we're going to continue to feel the heat. And then after that, we're pushing 70 still as we move into spring. So let's talk spring. We're moving from winter now to spring, and it's happening pretty quickly. We're actually seeing a very early start to spring this year, and that's actually going to start Tuesday. That's actually March 19th at 8:06 p.m., and it's actually the earliest spring to start since 2020, so that's just 4 years ago. And then before that was 1896. I know this is a weird thing to talk about, but with leap year, that really plays a part into when spring starts. We typically actually see our spring anytime from March 20th to the 21st, but leap year having such an off day, instead of 365, we have 366 days, but it's also 366 point, dot, which is hourly. So every about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, we'll see our newest March 16th date. As we start moving on in the next 4 years, we'll see an earlier start. So instead of it being 8:06, we'll be at around the 7 p.m. hour. And then after that, 4 years later, we'll be in the 6 p.m. hour. And eventually by 2096, if you can believe this, yeah, we're still pushing through this century. Most of us won't be here, but by 2096, we could see the spring equinox over Africa, Europe, and Asia as well, all around the same time, and everyone getting the same date for the spring equinox. Very rare for that to happen. Moving into 2100 and 2200, of course, we won't be here, but we'll start to see those years not really being reflected in the March 19th date until we start actually pushing toward 2200. So kind of some fun facts for you. Looking into spring equinox here, that's really what that means. It's equal day, equal night. That's what the autumnal and the vernal equinox is. Of course, we're moving away from solstice right now, but the equinox means we'll have about 12 hours of daylight as well as 12 hours of nighttime, and that's over the equator when the sun moves right directly over the equator here. And in the center hits and spreads its rays across most of the globe. We're going to see about that 12 hours of daylight, not just for us in California, but even in the U.S., but the Arctic Circle, the Tropic of Cancer, the equator, of course, equator usually does get those 12 hours consistently, but the Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle as well. So a lot of the entire Earth really receiving that equinox. But as we start moving closer toward St. Patrick's Day, we're going to continue to get those winds slowing down for us. Of course, we've been looking at the beautiful trees blooming out there, and that's probably affecting a lot of people's allergies because of the strong winds that pushed through for the last couple of days. The high wind warning for the Sierra and the foothills and that wind advisory in the valley has consistently been pushing and shaking our trees and creating all that pollen flow in the air. So if you've been stuffy, here's why. You've been dealing with a lot of pollen in the air. And now that spring's here, things have been blooming pretty quickly, and they'll continue to with warm temperatures through the week. Now, we're actually seeing the warmest temperature of the year so far for Friday, as we hit 77 degrees in downtown Sacramento. That's the warmest since November 4th when we got 82 degrees, but we'll continue with the 70s into next week. Now, shower chances are returning to the forecast, which kind of throws everything up in the air, because just as soon as you get those 70s, you're thinking, hey, we're really starting to turn a corner here from winter. But psych, we actually have some low pressure systems offshore that'll continue to start shifting toward us, and that'll actually extend most of our Sierra ski resorts there moving into Memorial Day weekend. A lot of skiing still expected to happen toward that end date, and some people even pushed through July. So we know that happened last year, July 4th. Now, the low pressure system still in place towards Southern California has continued to shift a little further south, but it's really this high pressure system that's expanded moving to the northwest that's created distance from that low pressure. And that distance is what's slowing our winds down for us. When they were closer together, the winds sped up. Now they're distancing. They're getting much calmer as we move into the weekend. We'll get a nice little delta breeze, though, into the evening hours as we start pushing into Saturday and even Sunday afternoon, evening, but clear skies overhead. And as we take a look at some of those wind gusts today, 83-mile-per-hour wind gusts, Lake Spring Hill, that's in the El Dorado National Forest. Little Bald Mountain, that's in Placer County. Also in the foothills, though, 74-mile-per-hour wind gusts, Vaca Mountain 62, Bear Valley 69, 56 in Murphy's. And looking into our futurecast wind gusts here, well, we are going to see some winds picking up for your Saturday around 10 p.m. You can see it mostly from the coastal range spots and through the delta. So otherwise, valley area and locations, not too bad. 10 to 15 mile per hour winds and gusts expected, but lighter winds throughout the day. And then finally Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, pretty light winds. Overall, about 5 to 10 mile per hour winds picking up in the Delta a bit. Let's talk those temperatures. They were very warm for Friday. Highs versus the averages this time of year are anywhere from 5 to 9 degrees warmer than we should be this time of year. Again, downtown Sacramento at 77 with Sac Exec at 73, Stockton 77, and Modesto at 73 degrees. So typically we're anywhere from 66 to 68 degrees this time of year. St. Patrick's Day approaching quickly. It is going to be a nice one. I know a lot of people who are heading out, whether it's Saturday doing a 5K or 10K run for the Shamrockin' events happening there and Rockin' and Runnin'. We are looking at a lot of warm weather and perfect conditions for running. I mean, you're starting your morning off in your races mostly around 48 degrees. By the time everything ends, a nice cool mid-60s, pretty perfect. And then getting into the evening around 73 degrees, and that'll be for Sunday, St. Patrick's Day. So a lot of people doing that half marathon, a lot of closures. You can also go to abc10.com for those traffic closures for the weekend. Now, looking ahead, I mentioned we're not quite done with all that wet weather. We may even see extended weather forecast showing more rain as well as snowfall for the Sierra. And the Climate Prediction Center showing the next 8 to 14-day precipitation outlook with above average conditions. And you're seeing the darkest shades of green here in central California up toward the Sierra and into northern California's valleys, as well as a little spot there toward the Four Corners. And then the darkest area here now closer toward Florida and up that coastline. So otherwise, most of the U.S. is expecting to see at least above average precipitation in some way or another. So that's some good news for us as we still continue to move through spring. We want to hold on to our water as much as possible. Clear skies as we move through next week, but by the following Friday, there's our next shot at seeing some showers, not just for the valley spots. Most of it's going to be pushing up toward the foothills. So most areas from the valley west will probably just be seeing partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies. And then we'll get some Sierra snow showers. We take a quick break on Saturday with partly cloudy conditions. That's the following Saturday. And then by that Sunday, we do have some more chances Sunday, Monday to see some showers. So enjoy the coming up weekend for St. Patrick's Day. Nice, sunny and warm, as we'll be looking at temperatures right around the mid to upper 60s for Arnold, Twain-Hard, Sonora, Groveland, Angels Camp, 71 degrees in Ione. And if you're headed toward the Bay Area, upper 60s and low 70s, not bad for San Francisco, looking pretty nice there with 74 in Vacaville, 73 in Fairfield. Sacramento to the San Joaquin Valley around 74, Stockton and Manteca, 73 in Sacramento, although I have an inkling we might actually see some of these numbers jumping up a couple of degrees more. We were warm today, well above what we thought we'd be for today's high. So I'm going to pretty much suggest that we're just estimate about 75 degrees for Sacramento for your Saturday. And that means it's also continuing for your Sunday, because by Monday and Tuesday, we're looking at around 76 degrees with temperatures still around the 70s, even pushing Thursday, upper 60s, low 70s. By Friday, clouds roll in, especially in the overnight hours, bring us shower chances with a break on Saturday. And then finally, by that following Sunday, Monday, we're looking at more chances of showers returning to the forecast.